New York Times, then tell me a better newspaper. What's a better source of news than the New York Times? FoxNews.com? Come on, get real. The New York Times has something like 1,200, very smart, intelligent, generally left-wing journalists. But I would much rather hear from someone who's smart and on the left than someone who's a midwit and on the right. So what's better than the New York Times? Still better than the Wall Street Journal, which I also subscribe to. I mean, where else are you going to get your news from Twitter? I mean, Joseph, do you read the New York Times?
I do from time to time. I read many different news sources. A great deal of them are on the left, some are on the right. I don't take any of them necessarily very seriously unless I think that what they say is self evidently true, which is to say that there's been some sort of evidence provided to corroborate it. I generally perceive nowadays news articles as being opinion pieces, even when they're not labeled as such, just because bias has grown so rampant in this day and age.
But I mean, for example, I'm right wing, so for me, I regard inequality as natural, and I believe that people are built with different skills, different proclivities. I don't believe that we're born a blank slate. Once you know where I'm coming from, then whatever someone else's perspective is, they can kind of deal with me. And I know the New York Times is overwhelmingly an institution of the left, but I can, if I want information, I can detect it. I don't see why it's so difficult for people to take what is good, whether it's from the New York Times or Richard Spencer or Howard Stern or the NBC pre-Sunday night football program. Once you put people or institutions or radio stations in their proper genre, then you can deal with them. Richard Spencer, he's a provocateur. He's always looking to be edgy. He's always looking to be the center of attention. He's always looking to surprise you with what he has to say. So when you realize that Richard Spencer is a shock jock with more elevated vocabulary, then he never has to disappoint you. Ben Shapiro, he takes the most conservative positions possible. Even if he knows absolutely nothing about what he's talking about, he's going to talk very rapidly with the most conservative position in his understanding possible. And so Ben Shapiro need never disappoint you. Once you put institutions and people in their proper genre, then you can read them to your benefit. I don't read my electricity bill the same way that I read the Torah, and I don't read the Torah the same way I read my health insurance information versus the way I read a sext. Right? If some woman sending me a picture of herself in a bikini and then adds a few
Looking for the latter. They want to have their views reinforced. And so publications are responding to that. And I think that if one is to read news in its proper context, one's going to have to take into account, regardless of whichever source it is that he or she reads or listens to or watches, whatever, that it's going to be biased because that's just where the tenor of the country is right now in terms of getting the news which it wants.
Yeah. So I mean, we're all flawed. Like it's like hating on 40 here because I'm not Paul Gottfried. I'm not Paul Gottfried. I don't know German. I don't know some of the languages he knows. I don't have his body of scholarly work, but I know a heck of a lot more about the pornography industry than Paul Gottfried. So, I mean, it's like hating on Joseph Cotto because he's not Howard Stern. Well, you don't set out to be Howard Stern. That's maybe not in your talent stack. It's like hating your gardener because he hasn't studied Martin Buber. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, oh, I've got so much rage for my rabbi because he knows nothing about Augustine. But why would you expect your rabbi to know about Augustine? Or it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm just, I'm ready to divorce my wife because she knows nothing about Keynesian economics. I mean,
Mhm.
once you put people in their proper genre, they cease disappointing you, and you can start appreciating them for what they bring to the table. Most people bring something to the table, but we only get disappointed when we expect more from people than they're able to give.
No, I agree entirely. Everything must be placed and very astutely put example. I really, yeah, I agree. And you can tell people the stats as you know they're easy to find, which show that more whites are killed by cops every year than blacks are, but they don't care because it's not really the facts that they care about. It's the confirmation of political bias, and that's why they go to certain news outlets to have their bias confirmed. So yes, very good stuff you brought up. Luke, anything to say about what K Max brought up?
Yeah, I don't believe that people are evolved to be gullible. So this is a major disagreement I have with almost everybody who watches my stream. So I don't believe that the news media is shaping people nearly as much as I think K-Max believes, because even these left-wing radicals who buy into massive police racism, they're not living in black areas. Everybody is pretty much race realist in the way that they conduct their daily lives. So you can have the media say all day long 1619 project, white racism, white racism, white racism. But in the people's choices in daily life,